Give them a shot to do what?
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are better than ever. We are a couple weeks into the 2024 MLB season. Spring training is over, and I am sitting here today with a man who wishes the season was already over. New York Mets' very own Jerm Edwards of Give Us a Shot Network. How we feeling, baby?
Feeling well. As a Mets fan, I'm feeling awful, but as a Sixers fan, I'm feeling hopeful. So I'm at that weird section of the cycle where the Sixers are giving me just enough hope to let me down. The problem is the Mets now are already letting me down, and it's way too early. So I don't know how I'm going to process it.
Well, man, you know, I got the Caleb Williams sweepstakes in 2 weeks. The Cubs are on top, but the Blackhawks season is shit to bed. And of course, I don't know if you caught what Torrey Craig and Andre Drummond did last night for the Chicago Bulls, but
yeah, peak Chicago sports right there.
Wow. And then gets hurt at the very end. So shout out to him. That's the only way. And then Billy Donovan's lying about the Kentucky interviews. But with that being said, man, let's get into the show, man. We're gonna piss some people off today. That's why I invited Jerm. Mike Powers and I will be doing a show very quickly in a couple days, and it'll be a lot of fun. But I had to throw Jerm into this one because Jerm is my guy I go to when I want to piss off old people. I just want to have a real conversation. Now we can be radio, we can be professional all the time, but when you want us to be real, you got to make sure you give us a like, give us a shout out, give us some love, because we are always making content on Give Us a Shot Network. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that follow button if you haven't already. Protect our queens, Jerm, Mike Powers, and so many others. Corey, Burt, the list goes on. Amazing people on this network. So many better shows than mine. So let's get into it. Let's have a real conversation, man. The kid himself, not the shy kid, the kid of O. Matt Holliday's son, Jackson Holliday, makes his MLB debut after getting fucked over. And that's how I'm going to say that. With service time. Chris Bryant effect is real. Wasn't good enough to make the opening day roster, but a week into the year, definitely good enough to get the call up to AAA. Jerm, right now, if I'm not mistaken, he has an RBI, no hits so far in his performance tonight against the Boston Red Sox. Where are you at right now in service time manipulation? Do you think this ever gets figured out from a agent perspective?
I mean, no, but it happens so seldomly to people that matter that they're not going to fix it, right? Like, it's just one of those loopholes that the team's figured out. Now, the problem is this shouldn't have been a situation where it applied to somebody, to the number one prospect in baseball, the son of a legend. Like, it shouldn't have happened to Jackson. So that's the problem with it, especially. And I guess if you are a team apologist in terms of, and if you're somebody who cares about service time and things of that nature, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter if he's good or, if he's bad or good or whatever. But if you're an apologist for that sort of thing, like early on in spring training, he struggled against left-handed pitchers, but he miraculously, somehow, through the grace of God, fixed it in a short amount of time. I had his stats pulled up here in his last 10 games, which is nuts. He had
in
14
AAA?
hits. Yeah,
Yeah.
14 in 9 games. He had 14 hits at 42 at bats with 2 home runs, 5 doubles. He got walked 12 times. He had a 1.07 OPS. I mean,
That's
he
the big one to me. The walks. It's you're walking a kid 12 times in 14
a
games.
20-year-old kid
Yeah.
and his team, the Norfolk Tides, scored 102 runs over 10 games. That's a lot. That's like 10 runs a game.
It's
So
insane. It's
it's
insane.
it's insane what he's been able to do. And he's been crushing it and since high school. I know, like I say, since high school, like it wasn't like 2 years ago, but he went from being maybe he's a first rounder back in like his senior year, 2021, 22,
Mhm.
and to, oh shit, he's the best prospect in baseball by the end of May last year. So it just that quick of a turnaround to see from him is amazing to see. Yeah, maybe the Orioles fumbled it. Maybe they were trying to do some like contract gymnastics. I'm not sure, but
Right. And we
the
saw
point.
that with the Brewers, if I'm not mistaken. They just locked up Cheerios
Mhm.
on a deal. We've seen the Braves do it where they lock up the young guys early, the White Sox with Luis Robert Jr. So maybe we can have that conversation of that being the case. But as a Cubs fan, watching that happen to Chris Bryant in the magical year of 2015 when he was a rookie, the writing's on the walls. As you know, this isn't the first rodeo for a lot of people, but making his MLB debut, first go. Number one prospect, son of Matt Holliday, strikeout. And welcome to the league. But for you, with this O's roster that already had World Series expectations after trading for Corbin Burns, where are you at right now as it pertains to the effect of Jackson Holliday? Because we have like guys like Wyatt Langford that are obviously in the lineup of the Texas Rangers right now, but we understand that he's not the end all be all for that lineup. You still have so many amazing players: Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, the list goes on. You look at Gunnar Henderson, Gunna, which is the name of my fantasy team. And then you obviously have Adley Rutschman and so many others. What is the effect of Jackson Holliday in his rookie year, in your opinion? And do you think this becomes his team very quickly, or is he just a pillar rather than the face of the franchise?
I mean, it depends, right? Like he had an ill-ass double play earlier in the game, but then there was like a weird fly, like confusion that he met. Like, so he's a rookie. He's a 20-year-old kid. That's number one. But he's not going to play second base all the time, right? I would guess it would just depends on
The
the
matchups.
bats and the matchups and stuff like that. If he can just fit, I mean, there's people that are already saying he's better than Gunnar Henderson, so which is crazy. But I think that's just more of the mystique, and I guess like this kid could be the next Bryce Harper type deal. Like that's the kind of hype fans have for him. I don't know if that has more to do with his dad being, just a
World
vet,
Series champ. Yeah,
World Series champ. So I mean, all I know is if he's anything like his dad, 100% effort, 100% of the time, he'll be fine. I think he will fit in nicely. The Orioles organization has done a really good job building what they have there, and he seems like a kid that isn't going to ruffle feathers or try to do too much. I think he's just, like you said, he's a rookie. He struck out. Welcome to the bigs. Maybe, I think once he gets his first really big hit or something like that, play your role, man. That's the most we can ask of our rookies. Play your role, learn what you can, and let your natural talent kind of dictate what happens from today on.
Most definitely. And I think the swag part is the most important aspect, because former Met and now a Chicago Cub, Pete Crow Armstrong, your number one prospect, top 15, 16 prospect in baseball. I'd have to look at the 2024 numbers right now. I believe it was 15 or 16, but you're looking at a guy dyes his hair cubby blue in spring training. He's electrifying on the base paths. He's electrifying in the outfield. He has that kinetic field energy to where the second the ball gets ripped off the bat, he just knows where it's going. And that's all cool, but at the end of the day, you actually have to produce for this ball club at a high level. And that's exactly why guys like Cody Bellinger are taking your spot right now, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki. And why I bring that up is not just because I always find a way to talk about the Cubs, is because with Jackson in that infield, it's very similar to when, again, bringing up the Cubs, Javier Baez coming up, Addison Russell, Ben Zobrist, and who was the other one? Addison Russell, Ben Zobrist. I'm blanking. Starling Castro. Castro. We're looking at those guys and we're like, yeah, Javi doesn't have a spot right now. And Jackson's in a similar situation to where it's like, listen, if you don't perform well, we will go with or without you. We would just like you to be here. Wyatt Langford. I mean, he's a phenomenal outfielder. you're DHing right now because there's not a spot for you. So I'm excited to see Holiday, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be really interesting to see the role he plays come October, because this team has World Series expectations. They're not just happy licking their chops to be there. They're ready to be in there like swimwear, Germ. We are ready to go if you are in the O. But you said ruffle some feathers. And that's our next conversation we're going to go to. Jazz Chisholm's comments. You jumped on this right away after the comments were made. You can check that out on Give Us a Shot Network on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere else. But talk to me a little bit about Miguel Rojas, what we've been learning about him as a leader. It's always later on. It's never in the moment. Everyone's a little afraid to be vocal when somebody's in their prime. But now that this man can't even jog to first base against the Cubbies the other day, hearing these comments from Jazz, do you see this more of this is Jazz just, feeling some type of way? Or do you think this is how a lot of other ball players perceive Miguel Rojas?
So I like in baseball's one of those weird things where like, it's okay. Like they pick and choose when they want to stick to the old timey rules and when they want to evolve, right? The game, baseball, the America's pastime, won't evolve until people like Miguel Rojas die off. And I don't mean die literally. I'm just saying the old guard, the old way of doing things goes away. I'm all for progression. I'm old school. I'm an older guy. I do think things should be done a certain way. I don't think a guy who is basically one slight step above career journeyman should be big timing young, hot talent. The guy who was on MLB The Show cover. Like, I think it's just a situation where the old vet doesn't like the hot shot young kid coming in. And honestly, this is a Gen Z problem. And I'm not saying it's a problem. It's just you younger people, man, it's just life. There's like a sense of entitlement, like bucking against traditionalism. This is just one of those things that they clashed, right? The Marlins have been awful. They've been run awfully. Everything about them has been terrible. All they have is traditionalism. All they have is the least we can do is keep this locker room in a way that we think is the way it should be done. I get both sides. On one hand, you're young and talented, and you have this older dude who sucks trying to put you in your place simply because he's a vet. And that's frustrating. I get it. But at the same time, a lot of the generation, like I just said, is just entitled. So it rubs those vets the wrong way. And Miguel Rojas comes from a time where you sit down, you shut up, you take your lumps, and you earn it. Like you have to and I think those things are clashing. Like he feels like he didn't earn his spot. And I don't know why he would think that, because I think Jazz has been a pretty good leader to the younger players. Now, the problem with Jazz is he's on the DL or the IL more than he's playing. And so it's hard to kind of sympathize or kind of be on his side when, you're on the pivot doing podcasts and you're hurt and you're supposed to be playing. And, I got to imagine Jazz when he said, "Oh, we're just playing a kid's game. I'm here to have fun." I can see why that would rub Miguel Rojas
the
wrong way. I agree you can have fun and everything, but at the end of the day, you're getting paid millions of dollars, and this is your job. And if somebody feels like you're not taking it seriously, I can see somebody going to try to talk to you. And if you are just one of these young Gen Z guys and thinks that you're all that, and I got to imagine you're not responding to that respectfully, I can see why this would become a problem. So
without a doubt, I think the crazier thing is, though, where you say all of that and all of those were great points, I think the Marlins fully bought into Jazz. And I think we're starting to see that now with what they're doing at Lone Depot Park. We're talking about bringing flags and instruments and just so much swag to the ballpark, trying to make it more fun, bringing in Tim Anderson. We know what Tim was for the city of Chicago, and, him trying to bring the swag back to baseball. And there's other critiques on Tim as well that we're not going to get into on this type of pod. But, Tim understands the game, and he understands the way to be a veteran and how to be a leader in the locker room. Tim had a lot of off the field shit going on with the Chicago White Sox last year. But as a leader, I'll always say this, even as a diehard Cubs fan, Tim is one of one. Tim is so much fun. Tim's a great guy. Defensively, do I want Tim in my lineup? No. But do I want Tim in my locker room? 110%. So, to pair him up with Jazz, that's the guy you should have had from day one. You know what I mean? That's the type of cat that you should be accustomed to learning from because they understand each other also well. I mean, Tim understands the death threats and all the things that come with playing in the big leagues. I just heard Chris Bryant talking about it the other day, mentoring the Colorado Rockies players who haven't gone through that type of stuff. It's crazy. And I think, the big thing for me, Germ, is he ain't lying. And he's not lying because Miguel Rojas had no comment, nothing real solidified to say that never happened. Like, yeah, you hold him and snitched out to the manager because he wasn't wearing a suit on the airplane. Yeah, bro. Like, I just went 4 for 4 today, laid out in center field how many times. I'm stealing bags left and right. I'm not wearing a suit after a game where we got our ass kicked 10-0. I'm showing up in my Yeezy slides and my tracksuit, and that's just what it is at the end of the day, German. And if they have a problem with that, argue with your mama, not with me. I'm not playing this game. Like, we can listen where we come from, whether you're in Philly listening to this or you're from Chicago, New York, wherever. Hey, man, we could throw hands or we could let it slide. But what we're not going to do is just avoid each other all year. And he said, she said, I'm hearing all this stuff throughout the year. Like, we can either address this right now. And by throwing hands, I meant we can hash it out, of course. And if it has to come to that, it has to come to that. Sometimes that's just ball. That is a professional men's locker room. Even not even just men's. Flauget, Angel Reese have beef at the beginning of the season, end of the year. I mean, look how vocal they were speaking about each other at the end of the podium. Like, you would never tell that there was off the field, off the court stuff going on 6 months ago. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't understand why this is happening. I think you should always play unapologetically. But that leads us to our next conversation. Christopher Morel last night, I heard one of the announcers and broadcasters say that he may have to apologize to Joe Musgrove after celebrating his come to Jesus moment after hitting a grand slam. The video here, we're going to play for you in a brief second, as long as it comes up. That is the celebration very quickly. If you just saw it, it's one of those interesting ones for me to where Germ, it's like, it's a grand slam, grand salami, baby. We're in there. After blowing an 8-0 lead the night prior, you have to come to that, come to Jesus moment where it's like, I saw Fernando Tatis Jr. pimp out a home run for them to win 9-8 the night before. No one said a word. And not to say any of those broadcasters were wrong. They weren't insinuating that he needed to apologize. They were just saying he probably will. But even so, why is that even being talked about, Germ? Celebrations after home runs, where are you at right now as it pertains to just having fun, whether that's bat flips, whether that's doing the gritty on your way home from third base, high-fiving your coach? How do you feel about the whole thing?
The problem with baseball, well, the good thing about baseball is that it's baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with baseball is that it's cool, it's a great sport if you're allowed to have fun with it. They want baseball players to be these emotionless robots for some reason. I don't know why. And this goes back to Jazz. This goes back to, we're going to talk about Elly in a little bit, and this goes back to now. The reason why, and even though Mike Trout is probably a better player than Bryce Harper, but the reason why Bryce Harper, people consider him more of a face of baseball than Mike Trout, is because he's a character. It's the one thing baseball is lacking and that they don't capitalize on in their marketing. You need characters to be the faces of your sport. LeBron James, Allen Iverson, Steph Curry. You have to have personalities.
Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks. Yeah, fuck out of here. Tim Duncan, one of the greatest players of all time, but nobody mentions him because he has the personality of a cardboard box
and the fashion of my grandmother.
Exactly. Like, Mike Trout is boring, man. Like, and I'm sure that's by design. I'm sure he just doesn't want. He's just one of them dudes that doesn't want it. I'm sure he's loads of fun when he's with his friends and family. Great. The problem is baseball fans, casual fans, and I'm more of a casual fan than like a diehard like you. Like, I gravitate to the Jazz Chisholms. Even if he's completely wrong, I'm gonna be more on his side because Miguel Rojas is an old cranky bum, and Jazz Chisholm is on the cover of a video game, and he wears chains, and he's super hyped when he hits a home run for his team. Morel doesn't have to apologize for shit. How about you pitch better? How about that? Like they should celebrate. I'm all for. I love when they talk shit. I hate this. I hate that the pitcher throws the ball at a player because another player did something. Like, I don't like that. Like, play better, man. It's part of the game. He had a grand slam. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a time to celebrate in baseball, that's the time. Like, let him do it. Like, it's part of the it's part of that should motivate you to pitch better in the future. Do better then. And so yeah, the announcers, who's the Cubs announcer? Boog Shambi, is he still the Cubs
Boog, yeah,
announcer?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Boog. I like Boog
And I
Shambi.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Boog that said it, but it wasn't insinuating that he needed to. It was
That he
just,
will.
he'll probably apologize, like, hey,
Yeah,
I
but
didn't mean to.
you know why he said that? Because that's in the fabric of the game. Like you're not allowed to celebrate individual accomplishments in baseball because it's the ultimate team sport.
Mm.
And I don't like that. Like, celebrate, man. You hit a grand slam. It gets your crowd, it gets your fans into it. It's just part of the, like, it's just part of the game now. Like, this notion that you have to respect your opponent, and I do agree you should to a fault. I think that celebrating a grand slam or celebrating a really good play or striking out, like, the closers go crazy when they end a game on a strikeout. Like,
Oh,
it
I mean,
just,
look at Trevor Bauer with the sword just a couple
yeah,
years ago,
I
where it's
like
like
that.
people digged it.
It's awesome because, and the average viewing age of baseball is still in its 50s. Like, it went down from 56 to 53, but that's still not good. That's not a good number. If you get some of these younger players to, and I don't think that's celebrations, but that's part of it, right? Getting younger, just getting kind of adapting to the times is what baseball needs. And celebrating, as long as you're not doing anything vulgar, you're not middle fingering people and all that stuff, I think you should be able to do basically what you want. So as long as you're not
I'm
being
kind of
derogatory.
I'm kind of down with that though too, and obviously when it's warranted though, you know what I mean. Like, let the kids play, let them have fun. Like, if these two guys have beef and they've had beef for years, like, Jerem, let's set the scene. Like, let's say the Dodgers and the Marlins are facing off somehow, some way in the playoffs. They're facing off, and it's like Jazz Chisholm hits a grand slam, jogs past Miguel Rojas, boom, middle
Yeah.
finger. And it's just like, dang, like,
Yeah.
that's wild. And then daps up TA in the dugout and they just go crazy. Like, that's the kind of storyline that we talk about, why women's basketball had more viewership in the
Hmm.
playoffs this year in March Madness than the men's side. There were storylines. There were
Yeah.
so many different things, from Dawn Staley completing her legacy, being a 3-time champ, to Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, Paige Becker's coming back from the dead after an ACL tear. Like, there were so many different storylines. And then I look at the men's side, and it's this 27-year-old kid playing against 18-year-olds who had his 5 seconds of fame and some 7'4" god. Like, like, that's really what it was. And it's like the storylines are just so different. And I think baseball, we're starting to get some storylines. I mean, the Evil Empire is back in both LA and New York. And then there's the young guns that are flying out of everywhere and trying to be fun. And then you obviously have the middle ground teams, the Mets, the Cubs, the teams that they're not swagged out running around going crazy with a bunch of young guns, but they're trying, and that's all you can ask. And sooner or later, Pete Alonso will be a Cub, and Germ will be back, and we'll be having
Don't
these
ever, hey,
conversations.
don't, hey, no, hey, we will never say that again. That's crazy. I will leave. Uh, I, Pete Alonso's the only thing I can hold on to in this. And even though the season hasn't started, thank God for Brandon Nimmo waking up. But, the Mets, I don't like this. I don't want to talk about it.
For sure.
I was about to start, but I really don't want
Man,
to talk about it.
can I get you to start just a little bit? One question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Francisco Lindor, is this just a slow start, or is this the beginning of something else? He's getting there. He's getting, like, age is kind of there.
He's getting there. What I will say is I will give him the benefit because it's a slow start for everybody.
Sure.
If it was only him, then I
Paul
would
Goldschmidt
say
is horrible right now. Like,
right. Like I if it was just him and everybody else is doing their part, I would say, yeah, this is not good. This is the beginning. And I know it's hard in New York. It doesn't, the way the season ended, and the Mets really couldn't afford to have a worse start. Like, it should have started well, but people are reacting to last year and now the start of this year, and it's got to be magnified. It's got to be tough to play in. It's going to be hard to break out of the slump. I'm not a big fan of booing your own players per se. Like, I don't see the benefit in being negative to players that are on your team currently. Like,
are you a fan of cheering for them though, like what the Phillies did with Trey Turner? Because to me, that was not the sole reason that Trey Turner's season turned
no,
around.
but
It's because he's Trey Turner.
I think it does something. I don't think you should do it all the time. I think
Right.
if you're displeased with the team, there's you should be able to voice that. However, when you go and you're like cursing at them when they're walking, and you're going online and you're doing all this crazy stuff, complaining and things like that, that doesn't help them. I think the thing with Trey Turner, I do think feeling that positive reinforcement it's got to help more than booing you mercilessly
Sure.
every time you step up to the plate or every time you take the field. So I think it's cool to do as like a one rousing ovation the first time up at the plate to show that we support you and let it be that. But like some of these fans take it way too far. And I like when Javier Baez was on the Mets and he did the whole thumbs down move. I made a T-shirt. I love that. If you're gonna boo the team when we're playing bad, don't cheer when we're playing well. You're giving me a thumbs down. I'm gonna give you a thumbs down. You're not doing your job either as a fan. That was his whole point, and I know a lot of Mets fans didn't like that. You don't get to talk shit and not get shit talked back to you when the team's starting to kind of turn it around. And Javier Baez was like in that specific year, he was like the only thing keeping us kind of afloat
Right.
for a while. And so I liked Javier Baez. I know he did a lot of swinging at balls that shouldn't have been swung at, but
Swinging at a lot of things, but not baseballs.
right. You take the good with the bad with some of these players, right? So I'm going to give Lindor. It's early. It's really early. So, and everybody else is struggling. I know Nimmo just had a really good game.
Mhm.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because nobody's playing to their level up at this point. So if
Now-
everybody starts to wake up and then he's still slumping around, then we can talk again.
Right. But I have you here, so we're gonna keep on the Mets conversation really quick before we get to our final topic, which is the biggest topic. So if you are just tuning in right now, make sure you give us a like and subscribe. Share this out to anybody baseball fan wise or just sports fans in general. We have plenty of different shows on Give Us a Shot Network on all streaming platforms. You can check out Germ's beautiful face talking about a plethora of things from the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid is back. We have so many things going on. Mike Powers, Corey Burt, and Protect Our Queens, and so many others do great things. You could always check me out at the Shy Kid Podcast. We appreciate everybody tuning in right now, checking out the episode. But
Yeah,
we got some beef. No more love, no more positivity.
cool.
Reese Hoskins. There was issues in Philly,
Yeah,
and the Mets, and now there's issues in Milwaukee. It's take me through your perspective as a Mets fan, and then unbiasedly, who was in the wrong? I believe what was that opening? That was the first series of the year.
Yeah.
Who was in the wrong in that situation? Who was soft? I got to hear it from your lens of it. I've heard Mike Powers' side of it, who's a good friend of Reese Hoskins, so I'm sure he had mixed emotions there.
Yeah.
Where were you at, Germ?
Reese Hoskins was in the wrong, but I think it's okay to react on both sides the way we just talked about it. It's okay to be that. That's what baseball needs, that type of drama. And again, as long as it doesn't get too derogatory, then I'm cool with a little derogatory.
I was rocking with the
I love that shit. Like you got the right one today. I like that shit. Bring it on. I'm all for confrontation. I'm all for, again, I'm all for beef. I'm all for that's why I had the whole show shitting on J. Cole. Like I'm all for beef. Again, I don't think it needs to reach Tupac and Biggie levels, but I think there's a way to do it. There's been several rap beefs that didn't result in people dying since Biggie and Tupac.
Do you really quick? Because I loved your interview. If you haven't checked that out, definitely check it out. Interview. Loved your episode on that.
Yeah.
For me, that was my first thought. Was he thought about it as Carolina versus California was going to be this East Coast West Coast kind of thing. I was like, man, you just didn't want to end up like Pac and Biggie situation to where even though those two didn't have the biggest beef at that time. Other people were like, "Oh, I gotta go spin for Biggie. I gotta spin for Pac." Like, do you think that's where the fear was?
No, honestly, I think when First Person Shooter came out, it put him on a stage nationally. I think everybody who is in the deep rap circles respected J. Cole, but nationally, culturally, I don't think people think of him like that.
All My Life, First Person Shooter, that kind of changed it a little bit.
Even though he's him, but when you get on a track with Drake that's a nationally on radio and all the time and you shit on him, you renegade him. You did what Eminem did to Jay-Z. And it puts you on a different plateau that he's probably not used to. He's sold records. He's a well-known rapper, but Drake and Kendrick are global. Like that's universal. Like J. Cole is up here with the rapidy rappers, right? Like people respect his pen because
like Forest Hills Drive is still one of the greatest albums ever done.
Right.
But who's talking about it today?
Nobody puts him on the Drake casually. And so casually, I think people like us who were rap fans do.
Sure.
But casual fans who were the ones who buy all the records, don't. And so for the first time really ever, I think he was put in that spotlight, and he felt like he got, based on his explanation, he felt like he got pressured into doing what he did. The problem with it is he's been talking shit to rappers for years.
I mean, what he did with Lil Pump with 1985. I mean, that was
Right.
like, man, like he little boyed him, and that he didn't even have to do it. Like
He did,
it's
but
one
he
of those
did,
things
and
where
it's his MO, and he's been doing it. And so now it's time. It's time now. Like you, and it's a bad look, man. This is rap. Like, I don't want to hear all this shit that I see online. Oh, he was mature to realize he got da da da. I don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah.
When it comes to rap, you have to rap. And if you want to be the best, like you claim, you have to out rap the best rappers, which is right now Kendrick Lamar and to an extent Drake. And I can't. My problem with Drake is he has too many ghostwriters, right? Like, it's already like, I can't put you with the guys who write their own raps. I respect Drake as an artist. He's one of the best artists ever. He's the top artist, whatever. When we're talking about the microphone, bar for bar, it's Kendrick and it's J. Cole, and J. Cole, you folded. And I don't know how you come back from that, to be honest, because I think his peers are looking at him like, I get what all the people online are saying, and that's cool for all the, the tree huggers out there that appreciate that.
Right.
And I'm sure the backpackers and everybody that goes to his shows are going to still go to his shows, but to the casual fans, it looks crazy. And like, that looks crazy to me as a rap fan. I can't accept it.
For me, it was one of those things where it was like, first person shooter comes out, small kind of dig at Kendrick, but not really. You know what I mean? It was just very slight, but it was noticed. And K-Dot saw that. It was like, okay, you just punched me in the jaw. I'm going to test yours. And that's what it comes down to. So blow for blow, both of you guys got licks in. If you told me Jermaine Cole today, okay, cool. That's where it ends. Machine Gun Kelly, Eminem had the same thing. Went one, ended. That was it.
Yeah.
That's respectable. If you want to say, okay, I just want peace, you made another one. You responded. And that's the problem is now K-Dot's about to respond, but now he looks like an asshole because you're the one screaming for peace, but no, you just did this track. It's like, at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense to me, because it's like, if first song was made first person shooter, Kendrick comes out, I mean, it absolutely dominates, and then you respond. Okay, well, now there's a war. That's not shot for shot. That's a fight. You know what I mean? Two guys can hit each other and walk away. That's perfectly
100%.
respectable. But throw that last blow, not expect to get blown back. I mean, that's just what it is at the end of the day. But regardless, I don't even know how we got here. Reese Hoskins and the Mets, shout out to him. But yeah, definitely check out Germ's full breakdown on J. Cole's response. It was a really great listen. I was listening to it on the train on the way to work.
Appreciate you.
But last one we're going to talk about tonight, Elly De La Cruz. The cruise missile himself, named my fantasy team off him. De La Dingers all year long. I mean, you're looking at an inside the park home run here. I mean, absolutely amazing performance by him. Not the first time he's done it. We've seen this man steal first, second, third, home. I mean, all of it. And how you steal first, I mean, wild pitch after a strikeout, and he still finds a way to still find his way safe. It's crazy to see what he's doing right now in the league and how he's been able to impact the game in such a short period of time. You're looking at a guy throwing 100-mile-per-hour piss missiles straight to first base. If I was a first baseman, I would cry every single time I saw Elly De La Cruz. So, seeing him change the game the way he has, and we've heard the likes of Stephen A. Smith say that Ohtani can't be the face of baseball. He doesn't speak English. We've heard this vocally. We've seen it on record. Elly De La Cruz is learning English. You saw him in preseason. You saw him in spring training saying, hey, I don't need my translator. I wanted to learn. I think it's important for me to understand my fans and they understand me, why I am the way I am. This is one of the most exciting baseball players I have ever seen in my entire life in 24 years. And I think if you go back in history's past, maybe another name you look at is Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds level guys. I mean, Germ, where would you rank Elly right now as it pertains to exciting young player that you've seen in your lifetime?
Top 3, and he's not 2 or 3. Tell you that right now. He went from home to home in just under 15 seconds. I couldn't make it to first base in 15 seconds. So he is exciting, and this man brought baseball back to Cincinnati, and I'm here for it. You played that video. As soon as the fielder missed that dive, I knew it was over. and everybody seemed to know that he had a chance to hit that in the park. And I think if that cutoff throw, I think it was a cutoff throw, or the throw to home was a little bit lower, he might have got. But the fact that it was high was that little bit of luck that he needed. I will say, I think he is relying on his raw talent a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of Blake Griffin when he came into the league as the Clippers from Oklahoma. He just he waited too long to develop his game. He waited till he was too old to develop a 3-point shot or a consistent post game. He never, I want Elly De La Cruz to kind of settle into his fundamentals a little bit.
I was going to say, to your point, I was going to take it back to our boy. I was going to take it to Javi. I mean, Javi comes in and he's just a phenom defensively, and he's just swinging at everything, and guys don't have a lot of tape on him, so he's hitting bombs. He's 2018 MVP runner-up, and then once you start getting the tape, hey, man, he chases a lot of first pitches. He's 0-1 in, 80% of each count of when he goes up to the plate, so he basically goes up to the plate, he's already down 0-1, and that's really what it is. So I please continue, but we've seen this before. I think Elly's a little different, but I can definitely see the comparison.
Yeah. And this is not me saying that his fundamentals are flawed. I think as a young player, you're obviously clearly talented, if not the most talented player playing outside of Shohei Ohtani, and that's only because you don't pitch. But in terms of hitting and doing these things, and you're an excellent fielder, please work on your fundamentals, settle in. And I think he could be I really think he has all-time great talent. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-time great. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying he has the tools to be one of those. And it just, like I said, Cincinnati baseball hasn't had the best track record. It kind of almost makes you forget about Tom Brennan, who used the gay slur on Cincinnati baseball. So every time I think of the Reds, I think about him dropping that hard F when he thought the thing was live, and then hilariously apologizing, and then stopped in the middle of his apology to announce a home run, the saddest home run call ever. And so
shout out Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that was Nick Castellanos, right? It just and the thing I like about that play call was that the play itself was exciting, but when you have a good play booth announcer to make it more exciting, like I said, it's just funny, like how the Reds have went from like laughing stock to wow, they're like legit. Like you can't, to be in that position. But shout out to Tom Brennan. Like your production crew should have helped you out there. But it's funny. It's still funny.
It's wild. But you made that point though. Going from the laughing stock to dead in the water by June, the Pittsburgh Pirates pick up Joey Bart for next to nothing. He's been great so far for them. I'm still huge on Joey Bart. I think he just change of scenery needed to be made. You're trying to live up to Buster Posey. It's not easy stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously,
big shoes to fill.
Paul Skeens coming up, national champion out of LSU. The hottest thing since Pants with Pockets is military Paul. We've had him on the show before. It's exciting, man. It's exciting times for the Pittsburgh Pirates, for the Cincinnati Reds, and Jackson Chirios and Christian Yelich and those boys in Milwaukee, Wrigley North. We got your manager. We're not worried. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see Christopher Morel and the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals. At the end of the day, as much as I hate them, still have Paul, still have Nolan. They still got some dogs over there. So we'll see what happens, even though right now Paul couldn't hit water if he fell off the Titanic. But, it is what it is. But I think the NL Central looks exciting. And we didn't even talk about O'Neal Cruz. O'Neal Cruz is literally just Elly De La Cruz off Wish. And that's no disrespect to O'Neal, but there's levels to it. You know what I mean? But I mean, O'Neal Cruz is right there as well. And I think, there's a lot of young, promising guys right now who, are just going to continue to make a mark on this league. But Jerm, I want to leave you with this one final thought. Didn't put it in our rundown because I wanted a real live Jerm reaction. Most exciting player in baseball 5 years from now. Who would you give the crown to?
Probably Elly De La Cruz still. I don't see him slowing. Even still. It's hard, man. There's a lot of good young players playing right now, and obviously these things can switch up. But Elly, I would say Jazz if he could stay healthy. You know what I mean? Julio looked like he was going to be that guy.
Yep.
Out in Seattle.
Dylan Cruz looks like he could be that guy.
He could be that guy, but Elly just doesn't look like he's slowing down. There's no flaws there that he doesn't have as many flaws to me as those other guys we mentioned. So, as you get older, you tend to get better at this sport. And, if he can avoid major injury, and that's, to me, that's that's stopping me from naming Jazz, because I love Jazz. It's just, he's hurt all the time already.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's so, yeah, that's tough, man. That's real tough. I would have to say Elly De La Cruz.
That's
hopefully
why
it could be our guy. Hopefully it could be our guy Jackson Holiday. We'll see. But
I'm thinking maybe it even could be your guy Drew Gilbert in New York. I think there's. I mean, hey man, Gilly Goo was that dude in Tennessee, man. I mean, if you ever seen the walk-off grand slam he hit, I mean, he's electrifying. He gives off supervillain vibes. It's going to be exciting to see what these guys are going to be able to do. And maybe if God gracious me, the baseball gods are in my favor, P. Crow Armstrong could eventually figure it out. But we'll see what happens, man. I would agree, though. I have Elly there. Not a hot take whatsoever, but I think it is the right take. And I think sometimes that's what you need. We don't always have to go out on a limb and say that it's going to be O'Neal Cruz by a mile or it's going to be Christopher Morel. Definitely think Morel could be close in that conversation. But Elly, by far, I mean, there's things you just can't teach. 100 miles per hour coming from third base, coming from shortstop to first base is insane. You could damn near put him in the Cincinnati Reds rotation right now. He's that solid. I mean, it's just been really great. But Germ, man, I appreciate you for being here. We just hit around 40 minutes. I have to go do a post game for Give Us a Shot Network, so make sure you check us out later. Make sure you tune in. We have to talk about why the Chicago Cubs lost a series against the Padres. 10-2 is your final today. It's not New York Mets bad, but it's bad. It's looking a little rough on the West Coast trip thus far. Germ, really quick, can you give a shout out real quick, whatever you got going on this week in the network or whatever you've done earlier this week that people could check out only on Give Us a Shot?
Only on the Give Us a Shot Network, www.giveusashot.network. Please check it out. Go to the shop. We got some new merch that just dropped. If you use the promo code SHOTBOYS with a Z, all one word, you'll get free shipping and a little bit of a discount. We did stuff about sports yesterday, which would be April 9th. You can go check that out. We talked about Bronny James and the possibility of LeBron and Bronny. Like, what is the realistic possibility that they end up on the same team next year?
76ers.
Hopefully, yeah. I gave a good reason why the 76ers could be the team to do it, even though I don't think it will, but it's possible. But we also talked a little Shohei Ohtani's first home run and kind of the beef that the Dodgers had with the fans and a bunch of other stuff. And check out the Hard Ass Truth, my new show on the network, where I have kind of off the wall discussions about things in pop culture. I talked about the J. Cole apology and things like that. So there's going to be more to come from that. And of course, you can check out the Shy Kid on there, Shy Kid podcast, JT and the Don that wrapped up earlier, Protect Our Queens doing really good things. They're going to be interviewing one of the assistant coaches from South Carolina next week. And I forgot the lady's name, so I apologize for that. He sent me over the information today, but they will be doing that next week. And of course, the Divide Live on Fox Sports The Gambler on Friday. Check everything out. Dwayne Marcus is going to announce his new show, Marcus Talk Sports, and he's doing a Packer show called Pack a Punch. So that's going to be just everything, content everywhere. Content, if you did just a buffet of content. So if you only listen to the Shy Kid, please go to the Give Us a Shot Network YouTube page and subscribe. And if you want to listen to stuff about sports, my show with Bert, go ahead and do that. But we have everything for you, everything under the sun. We can get to you.
And let me tell you something really quick for people that don't know. If you don't like Bert's takes, he has a twin, Corey. And you can always check out Corey's takes. Or if you don't like Corey's, you can check out Bert's. They're two peas in a pod with two different personalities, two different takes. So many great shows. Michael Powers and company always doing amazing things over here. The best part about this show was Germ. We talked about number 44. That's how many minutes we went. So until then, we'll check you guys out later. We will be in there like swimwear every single day, talking good, bad, and fugly. Until then, we'll check you guys out later. Peace.
Give them a shot to do what?